Hello and welcome to the EDHRECast, where we're all about commander, data, and dad jokes. I'm Joey Schultz and I'm joined by my fantastic co-host. I'm actually just going to introduce him totally normally. It's Matt Morgan.
So Joey, my fiance asked me, like, how often do you ever hear like a chemist tell any dad jokes? And I said, well, they probably do it periodically, but I typically have no reaction to when they do.
Oh, dang, Matt. I wish you had tabled that joke instead, to be honest.
I like these noble jokes. They're usually pretty good.
Oh, man. I just can't wait till they are gone.
Okay.
Oh, I'm catching up with you, Matt.
I cesium what you just did.
Incredible. All right. Up next, I'm also going to introduce him totally normally. It's 100% Dana Roach. Dana, how you doing?
Hey, this is not Dana Roach, but Joey, since we're all science nerds here, why don't skeletons fight each other?
Something bones. I'm not sure why.
Because they just don't have the guts, man.
There it is. You only hear those types of jokes once every half-life?
Oh, no.
Not quite once in a lifetime, maybe half a lifetime.
Oh, man. Okay, so as folks can tell, that might not actually be the voice of one Dana Roach. It might actually be Ced from One More Mana. Dude, Ced, it's so cool to have you on the show, man.
Yeah.
Yep. A long time, first time. Glad to be here.
Yeah, why haven't we had you on sooner? What's wrong with us? Like,
oh man, it's a lot of hijinks, a lot of craziness that goes down with One More Mana. So I think the stars aligned this time, and we just decided to make it happen.
Yeah, what do you guys get up to over there on the One More Mana YouTube channel, man?
Man, let's see. Definitely a lot of pettiness. A little bit more pettiness. A little bit of salt. You know, gotta get the seasonings right. Gotta get the flavor. Gotta get the taste going, and then we top it off with a little bit more petty, because that's pretty much all that we do every day, all day. Can't explain it.
You guys are also responsible for some of the best episodes of Shuffle Up and Play, and best episodes of Extra Turns too. Like, seriously, folks have got to go check out One More Mana. Y'all do such amazing stuff.
See, I don't think that just stays on the YouTube channel though, because I don't think I've ever had more fun at any Magic Con or any event really, and any of you are there, because it just bursts out of every game you play in. Every time we just get to have a chance to hang out. Like, it is not just on your YouTube channel that you are petty and raucous and just having a general good time. Like, you guys truly are like the joke is there's every content creator's favorite content. Well, you are that for us. So
sincerely.
Yeah. Really. Thank you. And I've seen all your episodes too. Matt. Yeah, seen all your I was about
still not Dana, but you know.
Oh man, see, and that's why we love you. And so that is why we wanted to have you on, because we are going to talk about some of Commander's quote pettiest cards, because they lead to moments exactly like that. It's not about being salty, it's about finding the fun in those little torments, and we want to talk about some of those moments on the show today in this topic. Talk about like some of the cards that can produce very silly and like sort of ribbing each other kind of good times, and we're really delighted to have you on to talk about a bunch of those types of cards, dude. Real quick though, before we get into this main topic, Matt and I have some shout outs that we gotta do. First, we gotta say we're so delighted to be part of Team Ultimate Guard. They make such good products. I have extolled the virtues of the shuffle feel of those katana sleeves. I cannot get enough. It makes me excited to search my library. Matt, I know that you're a huge fan of these smart hives to carry around a whole bunch of your decks as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Ultimate Guard makes really good stuff, dude.
I mean, you pick a product, any product, and it's probably the best in class. It's just so great.
Also, want to shout out that this month's Architect deck building competition is live. This is a monthly competition where you could win anywhere from $100 to $250 on cardsphere.com. So every month, Architect releases a deck building prompt, such as a budget or a theme restriction, and our lovely hosts, Matt and Olivia Gobert-Hicks, will go over the finalists right here on the EDHRECast YouTube channel, and you, the viewers, get to choose the winners by upvoting your favorite decks for that month's theme. It's really easy to submit a deck to the competition. We'll have more info on the screen and in our show notes. And this month's prompt is a real doozy. It's about taking a famous 60 card deck and turning it into a commander deck, sort of like how the new MH3 decks turned Tarmogoyf and Tron decks into full-on commander precons, or like Matt's 60 to 100 article series that he used to do on EDHREC. So yeah, the competition closes on Wednesday, July 10th, and the finalists will be announced on the 17th. So keep your eye out on the YouTube to see if you might be one of the finalists and if you might end up winning that first place prize of $250 on Cardsphere.
Well, and if you would like to support the show, you can do so by liking this video, subscribing on YouTube, leaving a review on your podcast app, any of that. It's all free ways to help the show, and it's definitely appreciated. But if you would love to, you can head over to patreon.com/EDHRECast, where you have patron tiers of all sorts of levels. Whether you want to join our Discord community, you want to see all these episodes a day early, if you went to patreon.com/EDHRECast and subscribed at a certain level, you could be watching this on Thursday, not just on Friday. It's just a nice way to get yourself any little benefits in return for supporting the show. And we appreciate all of our patrons, but today we're going to give a very special thank you, a very special patron of the week. And this week, that is Victor Bavalius. So Victor, you have the most Bavalius name. That's just a fun name to say. So and I'm just going to, every time I play League from moving on and I see Victor, I'm just going to imagine Victor's last name is Bavalius because it fits.
I like that you just adjectived a last name.
Yeah. It's quite a Bavalius day outside, isn't it? Like that works.
Oh, man. I feel like there's also a lot of room for an enthralling Victor from the Magic card. I think there's room for that type of joke.
An enthralling Bavalius, even.
There it is. Victor, thank you so much for being an awesome supporter. It truly, truly does mean the world, and it helps us do what we do. So yeah, thank you.
Yep.
All right, you guys, let's get into our topic here. Sid, we're so happy to have you on to talk about some, what was it? Petty EDH stuff? What does petty mean to you? I don't know. Yeah. Where do we get started here? What are we talking about?
All right, children, follow me down this road. First things first. We're going to learn you something today. All right. So petty, we all need to come to some type of commonality as far as some type of defining term for petty. So I just want to ask you guys real quickly, what does play petty or being petty in Commander mean to you? Joey, you first.
I think to me, I want to make a big distinction between like petty and salt. Like that's an immediate big thing for me, is that like, yeah, you know, on EDHREC we have the top salt-inducing cards, which is a very famous, you know, the polls that people can vote on for which cards are kind of making them a little bit grumpy. Petty doesn't make me grumpy at all. It's sort of, to me, the difference between like someone casts a Cyclonic Rift, which bounces all of people's stuff, versus someone casting a River's Rebuke, bouncing just one person's stuff. And there's sort of like a like a little bit of a nettling one other thing, which I think that's kind of an initial difference to me. But usually there's sort of like a trivialness to it that is kind of fun to linger. And I think that's sort of my starting point.
All right. I'll give you a B+ just because you mentioned blue cards. All right.
All right.
Well, and I guess if I had to define petty, I think a really good way to describe it is actually a game that I got to play with Ken, one of your co-hosts. And it doesn't come down to why are you doing this? It's why ask why when you can ask why not? Why not do this thing to bug my friends and to make these situations and the games that, you know, Commander only can create. So those situations of I'm going after you. Why? Why not go after you? I don't need a reason. I'm just doing it to do it.
That's great. So then, Sid, what does it mean to you, though?
Yeah, definitely all of those things. I feel like it's a lot of player action along with specific cards that you're using or how you use those cards. So we're definitely going to get into the weeds as far as what are some of the pettiest cards that you can play, but also some of those situational petty moments that you can get into as well. Because I'm more of the mindset that it's about the player more so than it is the cards when it comes to the pettiness. And so yeah, because we create those petty situations and we see those moments, and you do take that moment to say, hey, why not? Or as Ken would like to, as Ken or Hadoken likes to say, before I let me fart before I leave the room. I don't know if you guys can.
that is big Ken energy, yeah.
that feels like so like, oh, it's so crass or whatever. But like, I actually think one of the things to highlight here, because I don't know, we see the word petty and we're kind of like, oh, that's behavior that is unbecoming of us a little bit, right? Petty is something that you do with friends.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's actually the definition I'm kind of landing on. It's something that like you are kind of razzing each other a little bit. And it's something that can be good natured when done. And it's just like, we all know why we're doing this. It's the type of, it's like when you tell a joke at the expense of a friend, but it's not like actually laughing at them. They are laughing with it. It's that kind of relationship that you build with each other. And those are the fun moments to highlight.
Yeah, it's definitely not malicious. And that's one thing that we always want to get clear when we're talking about petty. And we're trying to introduce that to newer players or newer people to the concept. It's just that it's all in good fun. It's only supposed to be taken within the game. We don't take the petty outside of the game. It's because it's just a game. So everything is happening in the game. And as Derek likes to say, also part of One More Mana, play petty. Don't be petty.
As a total aside, it's possible that I might throw Derek's face on screen, but like with that quote that you just said from him, but it might warp the image a little bit because that's what petty means to us. Derek, you can be.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anything less.
Love you, Derek.
Yeah, just to show you exactly what we're talking about here. You might hear it in some of our banter with my co-hosts who aren't here, but this is what we do, you know, in each other's faces and behind each other's backs because we love each other like that. But yeah, just a quick story about how you know, we really started recognizing the petty because let's say you're in a commander game and someone plays an Oko, and let's say that person who played that Oko goes by the name Ken, and Ken decides to turn your commander into a 3/3 elk. And let's say that commander belongs to me. I love that commander, and now it's a 3/3 elk. So typically the way players try to finagle around that is you bargain with the player like, hey, you let me run it, let my commander run into you. It'll kill it, and that way I can recast it again. I said, nah, I'm going to kill you with this 3/3 elk because it's going to be commander damage. And I want people to remember that. No matter what, if your commander's face up or face down, it's still commander damage. And let's just say it didn't kill him with commander damage, but I did put in a lot of work and make sure that he didn't forget. So will he do it again? Probably. It's just going to make me attack him. It's just going to make me attack him more with a 3/3 elk commander if you want to.
But genuinely, I think you're getting at something that is valuable to this as it's like an EDH improve your strategy discussion, is that like what you're describing there is like, oh, I was just taken off of the abilities of my commander for an entire game because of one other player's actions. And you know what? I'm going to make sure that there are consequences for that action, because it's not like you can just, for lack of a better term, be a pushover. Like someone did something to affect your game. You can't take that lying down. And like that is actually a thing that we kind of want to construct in EDH games, where it's not like you can just mess with me and that'll be fine. It's just like, no, you know what? If you mess with my stuff, there should be some kind of like tit for tat consequences to that. So like this is actually a thing that we do in our games kind of already. And leaning into the fun of it is especially enjoyable. And that's why we like your guys' channel so much. But like there is actually like there's a lot of strategy to the like to these silly ideas, which I think is what's so useful to highlight here in this episode.
Yeah, that's definitely the idea, is that even if you are, you know, showing some force and you want to basically let the other person know that you're, like you said, not a pushover, but I can, you know, fight back or retaliate back within the game, that's definitely all fine and good. But it also takes timing, and you want to make sure that you are able to back it up. And also sometimes if you can't back it up, it's also just funny and hilarious just to go down swinging, because I mean, it could be a bluff, or you could just be standing on business, as they say. So,
well, and I don't know if there's anything more satisfying than, like you said, killing somebody with the monster they created. That is such a good feeling in the game too. Like, okay, you gave me this 3/3 elk, I'm going to kill you with it now and kind of like hoist you on your own petard. That is something that's always super satisfying. And that's not even, I mean, it can be petty for sure, but that's something you can see in so many more games is, oh, you put a Darksteel mutation on my commander. Now I can't really attack you with it, but now I have this like unkillable blocker that's going to sit there and chump you all day. Those types of situations are the ones where I'm like, okay, that's petty, but like it's coming in every single game that you might play at any given table.
Well, and you know, I think that kind of leads us to, we wanted to talk about some specific cards that we play, that our friends play, that I think can sort of exude a little bit of that can like help demonstrate some of those fun moments to create with other people. Honestly, this was just an excuse for me to write down a list of some cards that my brother has used against me, because like that's the dynamic we're talking about, right? Of just like, ribbing each other, razzing each other. We realized when writing some of these down, they kind of have different like groups of different types of the quote pettiness that can come out of them. So like one of the bigger examples to me of like pettiest cards in EDH are like this group that are like screw you in particular type of cards. For instance, my younger brother plays Leadership Vacuum, which sends all commanders target player controls back to the command zone. It's right to the command zone too. It's not a bounce to hand. It's like, boom, they're in the command zone. And he loves playing that against me because I have a lot of partner decks and like background decks. So he's sending 2 things back, and I'm like, yeah, dang it. Or like River's Rebuke is another one. It's not everybody. It's just you. Just your stuff. Because you know what you did. You attacked me for 1 damage on turn 2, and I didn't forget. It's those types of moments. And like cards like these can kind of have that come forward. And so like, let's talk about some of those, like other cards that kind of create those moments, which I think are a total gas.
I mean, I've only seen this card a couple times, but it instantly came to mind when we talked about the screw you in particular type of cards. Hedonist Trove, 5 black for an enchantment, enters the battlefield, exile all cards from target opponent's graveyard. You may play lands exiled with Hedonist Trove, and you may cast non-land cards exiled with Hedonist Trove, and you can't cast more than 1 spell this way each turn. But the only time I've ever seen this, the person who cast it literally looked across the table and said, "Look, I'm the Muldrotha now." And that's exactly what this card does. And it's so stinking funny. But it's like, I don't care about you or you, but you.
Yeah, I definitely have gameplay examples for both of those cards that you guys mentioned. Matter of fact, our play group, we kind of cut out Cyclonic Rift and replaced it with River's Rebuke, particularly just because of that.
Nice.
Yeah, and also the Hedonist Trove, I definitely did that to Derek. Matter of fact, I was playing like a Prosper Theft deck. And for some reason, I just kept getting all of his good stuff from his graveyard. And eventually I hit him with the Hedonist Trove. It cast all the spells that he wanted to cast. And he just had to look at me like, well, how? Why?
Yeah.
I wanted to play that. you monster.
And you just got to look at him. It's like, you know what you did. You put them there for me to take.
Exactly.
On the Hedonist Trove example, there's also like Stone Speaker Crystal, I think can kind of fit into this. That's like a Hedron Archive, but when you blow it up, you just draw 1 card, but you exile any number of graveyards. And the any number leaves some room in there for you to be like, yeah, like, Matt, I can see you doing this. It's just like, all right, I'll just exile like, Joey's graveyard, but the rest of you guys are good. It's just like, dang it. But again, I know what I did.
Yeah, you put things in there for me to blow up.
I think another famous one of Ken's is it's got to be Decimate. Like, I just saw Zed's entire head rolled back. He was like, ah.
Folks, for those not watching on YouTube right now, it is totally worth going over to YouTube right now to watch Zed's reaction. Just how hard, like, I got a migraine with how hard you rolled your eyes just now.
Okay, you don't understand. That card is Ken's Dark Magician. Like,
yeah,
it just appears out of nowhere. It's like everything is going good for you. You're like, Ken, you have no creatures over there. What's going on? You have like 8 untapped lands. Sure, whatever. I'm pretty sure he got some counter spell or whatever. No, he has screw you mana. That's what he has.
Screw you.
Because he's going to definitely decimate something on the board. And I'll tell you exactly how he does it. A lot of times in these situations, I don't know why it keeps happening, but a lot of times people don't have a lot of enchantments on the board. So that is one of the targets that you choose with decimate. He will purposely play an enchantment himself just to blow it up. And that takes dedication. That takes dedication. Bravo.
Yeah, because he's blowing up one of his things, but he's making sure that the rest of the 3 go to one specific person, and that's what makes Decimate. It's like, oh, when a Decimate isn't spread out, when a Decimate is just you, just you and your stuff, that's when it's just like, all right. Like those are the moments of like, whoa.
Yeah, every now and then you gotta have those calm down cards. Like, hey, whoa. Slow your roll. Just calm down. Let's just peel it back a little bit.
Yeah. Any other big examples in this category come to mind?
Yeah. So I typically play, I guess, what's considered maybe like judo style control or judo style cards. I've heard that these particular cards referred to that before, where it's like I'm gonna do something to you, but it's like haha surprise. What's the meme where it's like call the ambulance, not for me,
but not for me. Yeah,
yeah, because I tend to play cards like comeuppance, like oh you want to swing everything at me. Interesting. Or deflecting palm, which is I want people to make sure they understand deflecting palm. It does not target, and you also choose the source of the damage. For a red and a white, you choose which source of damage is going to be sent back to that player that it originated from. So deflecting palm is definitely one of those cards where it helps close out a game or just does a lot of damage out of nowhere that people don't see coming. But it's because people have the audacity to attack me. Sometimes I instigate it. Sometimes I bait you to come in. But hey, that's just me. But the very last one that I want to touch on in this area here is not necessarily judo style. It's just a I'm gonna mess over your game plan kind of thing. Not sure if people know about the card Head Games, which is a sorcery for 3 and 2 black. Man. Basically says take target opponent's cards from their hand, put it back into their library, and give them a fresh new hand of your choosing. Not only do you look at their hand, you shuffle those cards back into the library, look through their library, give them a fresh new whatever number of how many cards you put back there, and then they shuffle it up. That can cause fights.
It's unruly. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, and like giving your landlocked opponent and just a bunch of like 8 and 9 drops, or giving your opponent who only has lands even more lands. Oh,
yep.
It's dirty.
And this is what I'm talking about. Like, if I know that you're playing a card like that, I become more afraid of messing with you. And like, there's literally good strategy to playing these types of cards. Like, yeah, all right, I will second guess for more reasons than usual whether or not I'm gonna like try and attack you and stuff like that. Like those affect the game. There are, I think, a few others that definitely fit into this, like, screw you in particular kind of thing. Like, if you've ever been Magister Sphinxed, where your life total got set to 10.
Ugh.
Yes. Also, Soren Markov.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. All right. Your life total is 10. Oh, you thought you were at, 60 life? No, you're not. Like, those are also hysterical to me. Like, I really enjoy those types of effects, to be honest. But the one I really want to shout out is, like, on your upkeep, I cast Time Stop and end the turn.
Ugh.
Yes.
Like, come on. Like, yes. That one hits in the feels.
Yeah, I would just say Time Stop is an unsuspecting counterspell that does not say counterspell. Mm-hmm. I need more people to look at that card more often, because it just literally says get everything off of the stack.
Yeah.
And you don't get a turn. Do not pass go unless you do have a counterspell. But typically, sometimes when Time Stop is played, it's in a situation where people about to go off, and we just don't need that player to do that. So yeah, no, you don't get to do that.
Yeah, I think the only other card, and since Dane is not here, I'll shout it out for him, but Psychic Possession also is a card like, no, you can just slow your roll, otherwise you're just going to reward me for it. It's an old enchantment, 2 and double blue. It's enchant opponent. You skip your draw step, which seems bad until you read the second line. Whenever enchanted opponent draws a card, you may draw a card. And the flavor text is so perfect, because it's also a little bit petty. It's where it just says, you will do the thinking for the both of us.
I definitely play Psychic Possession in my Heliod deck. This is the Phyrexian Heliod.
Oh yeah.
Because if you flip them over to the backside, it just says whenever your opponents draw a card, your spells become at least 1 generic mana less. And your spells also have flash. So they're just literally rewarding you with free spells at that point.
Yeah, that just makes anybody scared to just do anything. Like, why? Like, I'm going to make either your stuff super cheap, or I'm going to give you a bunch of cards, and I don't want to do any of that.
There is another that I wanted to shout out, because this is one, a couple that Derek used in particular. And I've never seen it used this way until I met Derek, and I promptly kicked him out of my house. Duelist Heritage.
Oh, yeah.
An enchantment, 2 and a white. A lot of people typically use this to, of course, give your creature double strike during combat, only a single target creature. I've seen Derek use this on other people's creatures during their combats out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that was, I like that. That's tricky.
Said, Duelist Heritage is one of my favorite cards. I love how political it is, and that opens up a whole other category of just cards that are messing with combat, like you don't belong in, but you're making sure you get into that combat step. There's so many cards that I want to talk about here. Why don't we talk about those after we challenge the stats, because we got to take a quick break, but I want to get into this because combat that isn't mine is one of my favorite things.
Oh, heck yeah. Oh, now I'm excited too. Yeah, you're right. Let's get to Challenger Stats. Let's challenge the stats and then get into that, Matt. That sounds great. All right, I'll start us off with Challenge the Stats this week because I've got our listener submitted Challenge the Stats, and it comes to us from one of our patrons, Taikiyatsu, who wants to talk about the card The Cyber Controller in Don Andres the Renegade decks, which is a Grixis pirate that cares about stealing stuff from your opponents. Whenever you cast spells that don't belong to you, you make tapped treasures, and creatures that you don't control get a a huge buff from Don Andres, and also get like extra keywords and stuff. And the synergy here is really dang cool because the Cyber Controller, that's one of those Doctor Who cards where you pay X into it and it mills other people, but then the creatures that you mill, they turn into face down Cybermen that you gain control of. This is a really easy way to get a whole bunch of just, not exactly tokens, but like a bunch of blank creatures on your side of the field that then both the Cyber Controller and Don Andres are going to buff up. They'll turn them into 5/5 Menace, Death Touch, Artifact, Pirate creatures. Yeah, Taikiyatsu, I agree with your assessment that this seems decent. In fact, it might even seem more than decent. That's a really, really cool ability. A great way to get a pretty lethal board state with just a single card. I'm all about this, and as you note, it's not showing up on Don Andres' page kind of at all. I think that there's potentially room for folks to wonder whether an exclusion like this is the result of people avoiding Universes Beyond cards in their Magic decks, rather than, this card is going under the radar. It's just that people might be avoiding Universes Beyond. But counterpoint to that potential thing, here's the thing. 37% of Don Andres decks are running Ensnared by the Mara from the Doctor Who set. Almost half of those Don Andres decks are playing Grima, Saruman's Footman. And half of the new Don Andres decks are also running the new Assassin's Creed card, the Staff of Eden. So people are definitely playing those types of cards in this deck, and this should probably be one more of them. This is a really cool synergy that's going to give you a whole bunch of creatures that aren't yours so that you can bash face with them. Taikiyatsu, I love this challenge.
So my challenge to stat is going to be Command the Dread Horde, which is sorcery for 4 and 2 black. I believe this came out around the War of the Spark era, because it allows you to basically choose any number of target creatures and planeswalkers in any graveyard, bring them back to your side of the field, except you're going to take damage equal to the total CMC of all those cards. So big black spell, doing a lot of damage, but you're also getting a lot of creatures and or planeswalkers back. So I like to call this card my great value Rise of the Dark Realms, because for a while Rise of the Dark Realms was pretty expensive. And also I believe it's 7 and 2 black, so like a 9 CMC spell for that value. So like I said, I want to call this the great value one because I feel like you can pair this up with other cards to kind of help mitigate that damage that you otherwise would get from just playing the card by itself. So think about cards like Personal Sanctuary, which is a white enchantment for 2 and a white. Basically, during your turn, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you. Kind of similar to those old spells that you should see, I'm pulling out this one from the bag, like Dana, like Circle of Protection spells, and it has a color like Circle of Protection black. You can just pay 1 and prevent all damage to you from a color of that source. So does the exact same thing and for the exact same amount of mana, which totals up to 9. So you get it for the free. However, here's an addendum. I also found one even better to kind of synergize or combo with this. Came across a card called Shadowbane, which is an instant for 1 and a white. This thing says prevent all damage to you or a creature you control from any one source. If that source is black, gain 1 life for each damage prevented this way. So this is a Rise of the Dark Realm that gains you life. I need to see more Command the Dread Hordes out there.
Said, I feel like you're cheating. You know that I play a lot of Reanimator, so you coming in here with a Reanimator card, I'm going to love it. I'm going to love it. There are a lot of clever things that you can do with this card for sure. I think a lot of the other ones, like, Rise of the Dark Realms, they're so famous that they take up a lot of the oxygen in the room, so to speak, but there are definitely clever things you can do with this one. And the fact that it hits all graveyards, there's a good amount of flexibility here. Personally, I want to see someone pair this up with Judith, Carnage Connoisseur, which can give your instants and sorceries lifelink, so the damage that this would deal to you just gain it right back anyway. There are a lot of ways to mitigate around this. And even if you're getting back Kokosho's and Grey Merchant of Asphodels, you've got enough life to spare probably. Yeah, this is a good card.
I agree. Great card. And I'm going to talk about one that I think is actually pretty great too while I wrap us up with my challenge for the week. So a card that has just been overperforming in my Arden and in Pettiest deck, which is all about Voltroning, slapping a whole bunch of equipment on their auras onto a certain creature, is Ferocification. So I know that this isn't an aura, so it doesn't really fit in, but I think any Voltron deck, especially ones that are playing some haste enablers, would just love to have this card. So 2 and a red for an enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you choose one. Either target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn, or target creature you control gains menace and haste until end of turn. So there's a lot of different cards out there doing similar things. A lot of decks are playing Rising of the Day, kind of a way to give everything haste. But if you're only playing 1 or 2 creatures a turn, Ferocification, being modal with what you can do every turn, has just impressed me in so many different ways. If you need to pump up your creature, deal some more damage, say you have a double striker that already has haste or doesn't have summoning sickness, well, you can just give them +2/+0 till end of turn. But if you need a little extra evasion, maybe you can give it menace and haste, especially to get around it coming into play that turn. There's so much that I've just been impressed with about this card. It's only in 644 decks at the moment. And I know it's not an apples to apples comparison with Rising of the Day. Rising of the Day is in 68,000 decks, and Ferocification is in 1% of those decks. Mm-hmm. I absolutely love it. It's such a cheap card too. It's like a 10 cent. You can find it in just piles of cards people are throwing away after a draft. It's super good. It hasn't been out for very long, but man, I love Ferocification. I'm putting it in so many more decks lately because it's just a great way to, okay, I have one creature that I care about. I need to soup it up and make sure I get to attacking with it as soon as possible. I think there's a bunch of cards out there, a bunch of decks that would love this. Stuff like Ashin. So you want all those attack triggers. Well, you play the creature, give it haste right away, and menace. That's just such a great combo. I love this deck. You can't tell me only 644 decks out there want this card. That's wrong.
I like that.
All right, guys, getting back to our main topic, right before Challenge the Stats, we had talked about another category of petty-inducing types of cards in EDH, specifically some cards that mess with combat that you're not even a part of. And I know that this got Matt and me really excited, so I love this category. They're so much fun. Matt, is there something specific you want to start us off with that's in the category? These are so delightful.
I mean, like we already got to mention Duelist Heritage, which is one of my favorite cards, but Benefactor's Draft. Oh my gosh. I remember the first time that I saw this card, I thought there's no way this is real. So a lot of people, they see it and they think, oh, well, it's going to be a really good defensive tool for me. But if somebody's going in for an alpha strike and going wide and they have to block, why not use this when they're being attacked? So Benefactor's Draft, 1 and a green for an instant that says untap all creatures. So all creatures on the battlefield until end of turn. Whenever a creature an opponent controls blocks, draw a card. And then you get to draw a card as well. So it's a cantrip as well. You don't even have to use it for blockers. You can just cantrip out if you need it in an emergency. But, oh my goodness, drawing 5+ cards with this is absolutely bug nutty, and I love it.
Did you say bug nutty?
I did.
On brand.
What is that?
It's not just nutty, it's bug nutty.
Well, and then Matt, one that you've done to me, I mean, we got to talk about Berserk as well. That is a 1-mana green instant that you can only cast before the combat damage step, but it gives target creature trample and it doubles its power until end of turn. And at the beginning of the next end step, you destroy the creature if it attacked this turn. So this is the kind of thing that you have done to me because you see that Dana is attacking me, and then you cast Berserk, doubling the power of Dana's creature, hurting me even more, and then blowing up Dana's creature.
Yeah,
amazing. It's truly amazing. That is a peak petty. Is just I'm just gonna screw over just a little bit of stuff here. I wasn't even involved, but I will just remind you that I'm in this game, and I'll make life just a little bit more tedious for you guys because your left total low, your creature gone. Iconic. I love this card. I love seeing this. This can't not put a smile on my face.
I'm waiting for you to say the part that doesn't make me just like this card even more, because you're saying just all good things.
So in the same vein of messing with other people's combats to make sure that those creatures probably get damaged through, I'm gonna reach in my old man bag again. This is a card that I've played a few times, and I've seen it put in some work, and people definitely won't see this coming on other people's combat. But the card is called Outmaneuver for X and a red. X target blocked creatures deal combat damage to the defending player instead of to the blocking creatures instead. So not only are you interfering with blocks that have been declared, you're also making sure that damage goes through to your opponents. And
that's brilliant.
Creatures still survive or something. I don't know. Whatever. I just know someone's taking damage. It is not me.
Oh, and like you see this effect on green cards, but like that's an onboard trick that you can plan around.
Yeah.
This coming in out of nowhere, it's John Cena off the top ropes. Like you don't get to see me until you see me, and this is nuts. This is so good.
Oh man, especially like put it into a General Marholt Elsdragon deck where like you were probably forced to block a whole bunch of stuff. General Marholt will pump them all up, and then it turns out they're going to be
Oh gosh,
damage is going through anyway.
Oh no.
Yeah, but using this in a combat that you're not even involved with, it's just like, no, you, the defending player, are going to take damage, but also you, the attacking player, your creatures didn't kill off their creatures the way you probably wanted them to, but your creatures might die. And like, this is, wow, that's great. I kind of also want to shout out Great Oak Guardian, which when it enters, it untaps and gives a buff to the defending creatures, but you don't have to do it on yours. Like, you can do it on someone else's. Like, oh, Matt thought that he was going to be able to, take Anna Margaret out of the game or whatever, right? Well, I'm actually going to help Anna out a little bit. I'm going to, surprise, Matt, your creatures are now in danger. Like, those are fun moments. If you've ever been on the receiving end of a Tainted Strike as well, like, I've absolutely seen Dana use Tainted Strike on a creature that wasn't even his. Like, oh, you thought that you were just being attacked for like 9 damage and so you didn't block? Well, no, it turns out it's actually lethal. like what a blowout. And honestly, what a good move. Like, sometimes those are good moves to help make sure that a player who you need to be gone gets gone. And it can make way for you to take over a game.
Yeah, there's this whole category, just being able to mess with combat steps. Okay, I want you two to attack each other. Don't mess with me. And if you combine any of these cards with like goad effects or anything like that, you're just causing so many shenanigans. And I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I actually play the Rani. I'm not entirely sure. I missed that season of Doctor Who. But for one in Grixis, essentially when she enters and when she attacks, put an aura on any creature on the battlefield, and it gets +2/+2 and is goaded for the rest of the game. And these little combat tricks, because you're forcing them to do the combat and everything, but the Rani definitely wants you damage to get through because that's how she makes those clue tokens. Mm-hmm. So depending on how you build that deck, that's one way to ensure that combat damage is getting through.
Another I've got to shout out are also like the silly applications of hyper defensive spells like Ether Spouts or Settle the Wreckage, which can really ruin an attacker's day, like sending all attacking creatures to the top or bottom of the controller's library. Like, Aether Spouts is such a great card to really blow out someone who was attacking. And you can use these to defend if someone else, one of your opponents is being attacked for, like, sometimes if you really want to get rid of the attacker's creatures that badly, yeah, you can use an Aether Spouts to stop that. But the thing is, you can also use it after damage has been dealt. Because there's a stage right after combat damage where the things are still considered attacking creatures. So I can let opponent Y take all that damage and then cast an Aether Spouts or Settle the Wreckage and then get rid of the creatures that are still attacking. And that's just chef's kiss.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I adore these. And honestly, it kind of reminds me also of another category of petty-ish card that I think will especially resonate with Ken. Said you called it farting before leaving the room earlier, which is definitely Ken's brand. For me, I called it kind of salting a wound of just like, yeah, I'm doing this one thing, but it's not just that. There's also one more indignity attached to it. For example, my buddy Daniel has played Nurgle's Conscription on me, which doesn't just reanimate a creature from my graveyard, but it also then exiles the rest of my graveyard, which is... it's fantastic. I'm just like, dang it. So it's like, it's not just the one thing. It's also the other thing. I think Vengeful Ancestor also kind of fits that bill. It's not just that it's goading you, but also your goaded creatures are now dealing damage to you. Like, that's another really fun category that I like as well, where it's like, I didn't just do the one thing. I've also got this little extra kick on it. And that gives a little more bite, a little more spice, and a little more opportunity to razz each other in the game. That's another personal favorite type of category. Do you guys have others that kind of fit playstyles for you, do you think?
Yeah, so I definitely love cards that say yes and, but also not you. So I love those spells. So cards like Slave of Bolus, where I'm taking something that used to belong to you, is coming to me now, and we're gonna have fun. And it doesn't go back to you at the end of the turn. No, it goes to the graveyard. So I got to have fun with it that turn, and you didn't, and you're probably not. And because I'm playing Grixis, I'm going to do it again.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just that you stole, it's also that the creature's gone. I kind of like the fog effect Mandate of Peace for that as well. It's not just going to end the combat. It's also, now you're silenced. Now you can't cast spells either. Like, I'm going to make you immediately regret that thing. And just like the 1-2 punch of those cards just feels so satisfying.
And so, Joey, one card that I want a chance to cast against you, because you have your Babala Saga, your baby lasagna deck that you're giving all sorts of different permanent types, 2 permanents, and then sacrificing them. I just want to cast Tragic Arrogance against that deck.
Oh, goodness.
Because it's going to mess up so many of your plans. So it's an older card, for folks who don't remember. Tragic Arrogance, 3 white for a sorcery. For each player, you choose from among the permanents that player controls an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, and a planeswalker. And then each player sacrifices all other non-land permanents they control. So if, say, you have a card out there that is both an enchantment and a creature, you can choose that card twice. And if it happens to be, like what Joey loves to do is make one creature all those types, well, you can just choose, okay, well, you're going to keep that one thing because it counts for all 3, and then you're sacrificing everything else. This card is such... I know we said that petty is usually in good fun and lighthearted. This card teeters on not quite being in good fun, because you can do so many dirty things with this.
Yeah, that's definitely amazing. And I kind of same along the lines of the spells that we're talking about here, where it's like you get the value and your opponents don't. I've never been successful. I've never successfully cast any of the ultimatums, and I'm kind of sad about that. Not to say I don't have them. Sometimes I just avoid playing them because of the high CMC on those cards, but it is definitely worth the value when you finally get to cast it and get it off, because it's like, hey, your opponent has to get rid of this, put that in the graveyard, lose some life, and it's like, hey, you get to gain some life, get something back, make something stronger. So it's like all the ultimatums are definitely one-sided in a sense, where it's like I get to do something, but I also love that some of the ultimatums are like target opponent has to do this as well, because that can get a little testy there.
Yeah, a cruel ultimatum certainly feels great for 2 other players, but not great for one specific player.
Yeah, and one other one that I want people to run this card more. Should have did a challenge to stat on it, but Spy Network. It doesn't necessarily mess over any of your opponents, but this is a card that people just don't see coming, because they feel violated after you play the spell and target them with it. But for just 1 blue, Spy Network says that look at target player's hand, the top card of that player's library, any face down creatures they control, and then you get to look at the top 4 of your cards of your library and put them back in any order. So you're doing a lot of stuff for just 1 mana, and I've seen so many people just like, wait, what just happened? Like, I don't like that.
It's the trivialness of it. It's just like, what did you do? You have so much information that it's like, why is that in your deck? Is the other like kind of feeling that people might get from it too. But yeah, it's like milling someone for 1 card. It's like it's kind of inconsequential, but you know that it's going to stick in their brain. It's just like, wait, what just happened? Like, or attacking someone for 0. It was just like, what is that? Like, yeah, I like that brand as well. That's like that focuses on the trivial aspect of the potential pettiness, and that's a way to also like kind of like get someone off kilter, maybe, which could be it's just kind of funny.
Definitely.
Well, okay, so a similar card to that, just how it's just messing with 1 person and can sometimes mess with 2 people kind of completely. Modify Memory is one of my favorite cards that I discovered in my Council of 4 deck. Just I threw it in there as a placeholder, and I'm never taking it out because it's such a fun card to mess with just 2 people. I mean, you can like take something for yourself, but you really don't want to do that, because first you want to draw the cards, but giving Joey Sed's commander and then giving Sed Joey's most valuable creature, and then watching you both like, I don't know what to do with this. Yeah. That's one of my favorite side effects of Modify Memory. And so I'm messing with 2 people and rewarding myself for it. Mm-hmm. This card does so many things that I love to do. Like, this definitely is a way to take the petty party and invite somebody else. So now it's a 3-person petty party.
Yeah. Oh man, it really, because it's not just removing, it's relocating, and it's just like I'm so much less equipped to deal with that sometimes, which is great. And one other type of card that I also kind of want to shout out here are I just kind of like call these like sort of a bait cards, like you're baiting your opponents into potentially winding up in certain opportunities, like cards that have tempting offer, or like the noble heritage background, where you're offering a deal to other people. And then if people don't take your deal, you're manufacturing an excuse to attack them.
Yeah.
Like these are cards that can create the opportunities for you to find those moments where you get to razz your opponents a little bit. And I think that's also kind of worth mentioning. And above all worth mentioning, like these are cards that people do actually play, and these are cards that I find genuinely very fun. So like these are not like, oh, we're going out of our way to do any of these. I think a lot of these moments come up pretty organically in games, and these are ways to create really fun and funny moments against other people. And that's just rad. I like these a lot.
If you're looking for a commander that just exudes petty, I feel like you can't go any wronger than my man John EDHRECast. Or as I like to call him, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. Anyway, this deck, I played it and I built it a number of ways. And every way that I play it, it is just to mostly screw over one player. It is usually the player who's seated right after me, so to my left. So whoever's to the left of me or going after me, you're going to get some nasty treats. So John EDHRECast is 2 black and a blue. And there's a lot of text on this card, but basically at the end of the day, it just says that you take a creature that you control, donate it over to an opponent. It is goaded and it gets +2/+2, and it cannot be sacrificed. When it attacks, you get to draw a card. Basically, you're getting some value from a card that you're giving away. And typically when you're using John EDHRECast, you're giving away some cards that are going to be bad to the player who's controlling them. Cards that are like you cannot play extra creatures, like Steel Golem, or like cards that says you lose half of your life when you attack. Derek is very familiar with that card.
Ebon Reaper?
Ebon Reaper. There you go. Ebon Blade Reaper.
Oh man, that is gnarly.
Yeah, I've had that card for years. Never knew how I wanted to use it until John EDHRECast came along, and it became Derek's new best friend. So that's one way to use those cards. And I feel like you can't talk about a petty commander without talking about Queen Petty herself, Okagachi.
Oh yeah.
If you even thought about attacking me, not did combat damage, if you thought about attacking me on my turn, I'm exiling something you control. They don't actually have to get the combat damage through. They just have to have initiated an attack towards you. You can prevent it with like your comeuppance spells or anything that prevents damage, like your deflecting palms, and then get them with the crackback.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you can definitely get them out the paint with Okagachi. The way that I like to build it is very combat enabled, so it's not trying to prevent combat, is actually encouraging combat. And there are cards or spells in there that says, hey, if your creature's untapped, it must go to combat this turn, must attack this turn. That's one way that you can definitely build Okagachi, and people will think 2, maybe 3 times before they attack you.
For sure. And especially what is so much fun to discover on your guys' channel is like there are different ways to approach this. You know, we talked about screw you in particular type of cards. My younger brother has a Glunch deck, which is a group hug deck, and it gives off little rewards. Like you get some counters and you can draw a card and you yada yada, but you're left out. So like that's one aspect, and it's great. I love it. Like that's a really fun dynamic for him to be like, you didn't take my deal earlier, so I'm leaving you out of this cool stuff that I'm giving. That's awesome. And that's a very different creature to like, there's a mono green Kamal that can turn lands into creatures. So then if someone plays a Wrath of God, you can be like, all right, well, I'm going to turn one of your lands into a creature, so it's going down with me. Like those are different types of ways to engage with this practice, but they're both very like enjoyable within those right contexts, and it's fun to see them emerge in different ways. And so yeah, gotta check out More Mana to find out different ways to access this and to razz each other.
Yeah, and just the whole aspect of just being able to kind of just think on the fly, I feel like that keeps the game engaging in a way. That's why we have this theory that pettiness kind of helps enhance gameplay strategy, but also just keeps everyone engaged as far as their attention to detail and attention to the board. It makes you kind of pause and like, wait a minute, but what if they do this? What if I do that? Will they do that? So those are the kind of games I like to play, little mind games here and there. Just kind of not always just playing the game, but also kind of playing the player as well. So try to get into their head a little bit and understand their play style and their aversions to whether or not they're going to attack back or retaliate back or whatnot. You kind of get a feel for people's play style, and I kind of hope that people kind of take a step out of their typical play styles somewhat and come join us in the petty. Come see what's going on, and take that step down that lane.
I mean, to me, petty, like playing in the petty style, it comes down to my head is saying this, but my heart is going to win and I'm going to do this. Exactly. And it's just really like, I'm not going to lose with cards in my hand. I'm going to play everything I can, because why not? Again, it's don't ask why should I do this? Like, why shouldn't I do this? And yeah, just being proactive, having fun with it. Like I do love, like, I know I've said this a few times today, but I love every time we get to play games together, because there's so much social interaction that everybody's kind of like, caution is to the wind this game. We're going to have fun and we're going to see what will happen when everybody does everything in their power that they're able to do. Mm-hmm. It's just such a fun time with playing with anyone with the One More Mana crew. Listeners out there, if you ever have a chance at a Magic Con and you see these fine folks, if you have a chance to get a game in with them, absolutely do it. You will not regret it.
Yeah, and if I can real quick, I'm just going to let the listeners know ways that you're probably already invoking petty in your games and don't even realize it. Just real quick, like, hey, before I die this turn, you've really been messing me over this game. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to detract your strategy, because I'm not going to win, but neither are you. I've also seen Derek is infamous for this. If someone's about to kill him with a spell or an effect, he will figure out a way to take himself out before they get to do it, because he wants to go out on his own terms. So those are just some other fun ways that you're probably invoking these things in your games and may not even be realizing it.
Right. It's not instant speed scooping. He's using his own cards, but he's just not giving them the satisfaction.
I mean, one of my favorite things is watching people kind of like settle their differences. Like, I'm going to do this, like, you got me this turn. And so one way, like a card actually that you can very literally let them do that is the card Cruel Entertainment. Like, you two are feuding right now. Now you guys get to duke it out only as each other. And it's such a just freaking hilarious way to just have a game unfold. 6 and a black for a sorcery. Choose target player and another target player. The first player controls the second player during the second player's turn, and the second player controls the first player during the first player's turn. So you can mind slaver people, and that's boring. Everybody can mind slaver, but Cruel Entertainment is just you and you, like, you've been fighting all day. Just duke it out, get it out of your system, and then we can like go back and having our normal games. Yeah. It's such a wacky, wild card. Like, I don't see enough of it, but if you want to invoke some petty into your games, Cruel Entertainment is not very cruel. It is great entertainment.
That's such a dad card. Like, that's
100%. 100%. It 100% is the dad turns around and is like, don't make me pull this car over.
Yeah.
That's what Cruel Entertainment is.
And a thing that I want to hit back on here is that, like, there's, I think, a lot of power to this. Like, for one thing, actions like these provide a lot of forward momentum in a game. It prevents things from stalling out. When it's just like, you know what, you attacked me for 1 on, turn 2, so I am going to do a whole bunch of stuff like that. That propels some forward game narrative, which I'm always here for, rather than things stalling out or dragging on. But another thing also is that, like, kind of like I said earlier, if I know that a player will, potentially try and rebuke back or whatever within gameplay, that does change the way that I will approach them during those games. And that is a strategy that can be wielded. If stuff crosses over into salty, that's not good. I don't want to play. But like when it's like, all right, I'm going to petty get back at you for something, that's neat. Like, it's a reassertion of their power within the game. I can't just do whatever to their side of the field and then also expect them to later help me take down an archenemy. Like, because those petty playstyles or whatever will be like, well, yeah, you can't just mess with me. You can't, I'm not a pushover. Like, if you wanted my help later, you shouldn't have mistreated me earlier during the game. And like, those are fun ways that these can like help you just remind yourself of the power that you have within a game, and also craft a lot of fun and forward moving games and provide that momentum. So I think that's another note for me that I just want to make sure that we hit, that like, these are great experiences to have with players, and they also do have a lot of like strategy involved with them, to be honest.
Yeah. So a lasting thought that I want to make sure that the listeners out there understand, we've been saying it this entire time. Again, play petty, don't be petty. Try not to be salty or induce salt or purposely induce salt. You want to keep this as a playful environment and as a fun environment. So try not to take it too far, because the power is in your hands. And so essentially, this is also just a way that we feel like people are able to let their personality shine through, not just making a game more fun, but also just you're able to step outside of yourself or become more of yourself during a game where it's like you said, I will assert dominance. I will hit you with I will hit you back for what you did to me, and we'll call it square, call it even after that. So just want people to keep this in mind that you're probably already playing petty, but just try not to take it too far.
Yeah, there's a very big difference between petty and salty. And, EDHREC has a whole salt page unto itself, but that's a very different thing to the types of cards that your younger brother will play against you. Cody, I'm begging you, stop leadership vacuuming my creatures.
Do it.
Yeah, I mean, just remembering that petty, like we said earlier in the episode, petty stays within that game. Petty doesn't carry over from game to game. It's just a contained feeling of how am I encouraging social interaction for this game? How am I making sure that things are happening? And yeah, salt is a completely different thing. And holding grudges, that's not petty. That's just holding grudges. And so just making sure that it's in the spirit of the format. It's having fun. It's encouraging those weird and wild interactions.
Yeah, precisely. Messing with other people's combat, getting them back immediately, making sure that you had a lasting impact on the game, or even attacking someone for 0. Like, all of these things they add so much texture to a game. And that's exactly why we've had so much fun, like when we were streaming, playing games with you guys from One More Mana, and like at events, like Matt was saying. Oh my goodness, folks have got to get games in with the One More Mana crew. Y'all are hysterical, and you never leave a game without making a memory. Like these create for such memorable games, and there's a reason that you're like, also like Matt said earlier, like a favorite creator. It's like your favorite creator's favorite creator. We adore you guys, and I can't believe we didn't have you on the show sooner to talk about one of your favorite things. So thank you so much for joining us, Ed. This was an absolute treat.
Yeah, it was great joining you guys today. Please tell Dana to take more vacations. We'll gladly step in and fill his shoes.
Will do.
Next time we do this, I'll probably dress the part.
What are you talking about? You're 100% Dana. You're absolutely 100% definitely Dana. And in fact, Dana, if our listeners want to find you doing all of your ridiculousnesses, where is it that they can locate you and your whole team online?
You can find me on the Twitter birds at Dana Roach. I'll just play. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
You can find us One More Mana on YouTube. That's where we produce most of our content, primarily. Like I said, a lot of fun, a lot of funny conversations. We're moving a little bit more into the long form content, so we have a lot more time to get that energy and that funness out that we like to invoke into our discussions. But you can also catch us on Twitter or X at Mana Squad. So that's where, if you want to shoot us over some ideas or interact with us, you can do it that way. Or you can check out our Patreon at One More Mana as well. We upload content about a day earlier for our patrons, and we also want to become interact with the patrons a little bit more. So shoot us your ideas as well, because we have a lot of great content coming for you as well.
Heck yeah. And Matt, how about you? Where can folks find you?
Well, folks can find me on pretty much any social media platform at Mathimus55. That's MATHIMUS55. And don't forget, we are proud members of Team Ultimate Guard. So if you need some of the best deck accessories, sleeves, deck boxes, and all that, check out Ultimate Guard for the best you can get.
And I'm Joey Schultz. You can find me online everywhere at Joseph M. Schultz. And if you got a question for the cast, or you want to send us a challenge to stat submission, stuff like that, you can find us there at EDHRECast@gmail.com. Listeners, we'll be back at you next week with more data and insights. But until then, remember, stay petty and EDHREC your deck before you wreck your deck.